second teaser trailer for the upcoming Penguin TV series set in Matt Reeves' Batverse has been revealed. Stick around to find out what this is going to be about and how the Penguin is going to make Gotham City his. I'm Brennan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Now let's get into the news. So to start off, we've got the teaser trailer, the official teaser trailer for the Penguin, available at the Warner Brothers UK and Ireland YouTube channel. So let's just take a look at this here. Looks like we got some scenes of the climax of the Batman movie. I really love the way that it looks like it absolutely devastated the city.
What that madman did.
God, that's so... I'm so interested to see a little bit more of this prison.
Listen, Sal.
The world building
Carmine
is so
Falcone
amazing.
is dead.
Just in this whole universe.
And I'm here now. I'll be calling the shots.
Got Clancy Brown as Sal Maroni. I'm glad we're going to get to see some of him. He's
Falcone's
awesome.
still licking that
Is
wounds.
Clancy Brown? Pretty sure.
They're distracted. The business will be ripe for the taking.
What a beautiful frame. I love the frame within the frame.
My father's been dead a week.
Penguin's
You want to take
head in
what's
the
mine?
I'm the daughter of the Falcone Don.
Cristin
He's dead.
Millioti is Sofia Falcone.
The
She's
family thinks I'm
amazing.
broken. I'm not broken.
You and me, kid. We gotta take whatever we decide is ours.
We gotta take whatever we desire is ours.
Because no one's gonna give it to us. Not without a fight.
All right, so we're not going to play the whole trailer here. Go ahead and give that a watch again. That's at the Warner Brothers UK and Ireland YouTube channel. Definitely check out the rest. It looks absolutely amazing. I am so excited for this series. You have no idea. Penguin is one of my favorite Batman villains of all time. I really, really love the character, and I loved Colin Farrell's take in Matt Reeves, the Batman. I thought it was absolutely amazing. He really capitalized on the aspects of that character that I really enjoy. You know, there are two different ways that, you know, they typically portray Penguin in any form of media. There is the sort of Danny D version that we get from Batman Returns in, I want to say that was that 91, 92, not important. There's that sort of Penguin who's the much more deformed, sort of just weird looking. I think in that they even discuss like he's a mutant. Like I think he's like crossbred with some animal of some kind, and he has literal webbed fingers. I think he actually has 3 fingers on each hand. So there's that take, which I know that a lot of people really enjoy. And there's, I mean, it's fun, you know, it's sort of interesting. It sort of leans into the more fantasy aspect of the universe. But then there's the other side of the Penguin that I much more enjoy. I mean, I don't really enjoy the sort of more fantasy, deformed, waddling kind of character. I much more like this, where he is a savvy businessman, a crime lord, right? I enjoy the Penguin that is portrayed in some of the other stories, right, where he builds up the Iceberg Lounge and it becomes this an incredibly successful resort, which is in and of itself, you know, massively profitable, and then underneath it is the front for illicit activities and criminal organizations. I much more like that aspect of the Penguin, and that's obviously what Matt Reeves sort of leaned into when he was doing the Batman, right? It's a much more grounded universe, and I was so excited to see that. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I'm incredibly glad that he's getting his own series. Like I said, I thought Colin Farrell did absolutely amazing in the role, just a beautiful performance, as is expected from Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell is just incredibly talented. But the performance, the universe there, I was so excited to see. And I'm so glad that he gets to be the star of his own show. And in a show where it looks like, frankly, Batman isn't necessarily going to be involved at all. And if he is, hopefully it's just in a minimal role. I'm glad that Colin Farrell's Penguin is going to get to shine. I think Oswald Cobblepot really deserves that. He's sort of a really underutilized villain, and he's sort of mostly, I think, in part because of Danny D's portrayal in the Tim Burton film, he's sort of just viewed as this hokey character. But in the comics, the Penguin is one of Batman's most formidable foes. He's often described as one of the most intelligent people that Batman has ever faced. And so I'm glad that we're going to see sort of his rise here. I as soon as this show was announced, I was instantly hooked, and I'm just based off of the trailer, it looks like it's going to be similar tone and style, both visually and thematically, to the Batman movie, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Obviously, we always talk about how wonderful the Batman film is, about how grounded it is, and how much it feels like as realistic as you could get with like a superhero movie. And I'm glad that it looks like we're going to be exploring that more. It looks like we're going to hit heavily on these sort of mafia mob themes, this sort of neo-noir thriller. I think it's absolutely amazing. Now, to get a little bit further into the details here, I'm going to switch over to this article from Deadline. The Penguin second teaser. Batman villain prevails over flooded Gotham City, finds potential foe in Cristin Miliotti's gangster. I'm so excited to see her. The second teaser for Max's DC series, The Penguin, dropped this morning, and behold the aftermath, which Batman has created, per Colin Farrell's title character, who calls him a madman in today's teaser. I don't know if it's necessary. Is he really calling Batman the madman, or is he calling the Riddler the Batman? Or excuse me, is he calling the Riddler the madman? I sort of assume he's kind of talking about the Riddler, right? The Riddler is the person who flooded the city, right? It was the person who set this whole thing involved. And sure, the Penguin definitely had some negative interactions with the Batman. I don't know if there's necessarily that hate there. I think, to me, it seems like he was much more blaming the Riddler, but that's not necessarily as important. It's a new world. John Turturro's crime kingpin Carmine Falcone is dead, and the Penguin is in charge. Or is he? Front and center in the second teaser is Cristin Miliotti's fierce Sofia Falcone. I'm the daughter of the Falcone Dawn, but he's dead. I refuse to let these old men push me aside again. So I'm going to take from them now, and I'm going to force them to their knees. Pretty dope, cold line. Like many femme fatales in the latest canon of Batman post Tim Burton's 1992 movie Batman Returns, okay, it was 92, I think I said 91 earlier, they're not entirely evil. Femme fatales are more like it, and it looks like Penguin has found one in Sofia. The 8-episode series, which first went into development in September of 2021, wow, that was a long while ago, a spinoff of Matt Reeves' The Batman. Wait, it started in 21? So they started it before The Batman even came out? I didn't even realize that. I thought they had started it like a couple months after. Or presumably, I suppose development is probably, they mostly just mean the beginnings of the workings of the idea. Okay, that makes much more sense. A spinoff of Matt Reeves' The Batman, which in 2022 grossed $722 million, will finally premiere this September. So I'm so excited to see Cristin Milioti, right? I haven't seen her in much. I'm not incredibly familiar with her, but I just like her as a person. There's a lot of nostalgia there, as she was the mother in How I Met Your Mother. There's a lot of feelings there. I think she's beautiful. I thought she did a great job in that. And so I'm really, really excited to see her in this. Just based off of the trailer and some of the previous images that have been released, she looks like she can really do this sort of dramatic, intense role. And that's really exciting to see. And I'm really, really interested in what they do with Sofia Falcone in this universe. All right, so this is a character who has sort of taken a backseat in most of the comics. She's not a huge player, mostly involved in relation to the Falcone crime family, which doesn't necessarily get addressed nearly as much these days. But there's at least one incredible story that I have read, and it's actually behind me here, Batman Dark Victory, written and the creative team is Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I think Jeff Loeb is the writer and Tim Sale is the artist. It's the same crew. It is a spiritual sequel to Batman: The Long Halloween. I really absolutely love that creative team. Obviously, we've got those two Batman ones that I mentioned. I also have Captain America White, which is that same team. Another incredibly beautiful comic. It takes place during World War II. I don't think it's necessarily an origin story, if I remember. I think we just hop in after he's been serumed up, I suppose, super soldierified, let's say. But my point is, those are incredibly amazing stories. I absolutely loved Dark Victory. It wasn't as amazing as The Long Halloween. I think The Long Halloween is supremely unique in how wonderful it is, but Dark Victory is really, really interesting as well. That comic serves as a new origin, a retelling of the origin story of oh man, I'm blanking on his name, Dick Grayson's Robin. It's a beautifully told and absolutely amazing there. And Sofia Falcone plays maybe a secondary role. I mean, I don't think she's necessarily one of the main characters. She does get a fair amount of panel time. I'd have to reread it. I don't think I've read it in a couple years. But she does play a large role in the story, and that story itself focuses a lot on the Falcone family, both Sofia and her brother, whose name I believe is Albert. Yeah, I can't find it here, but I want to see. Yeah, Alberto Falcone. And that's incredibly, incredibly interesting. Now, like I said, I'm curious to see where they take this, or where they take her in this. Obviously, there is a line that we showed at the beginning there where she says something along the lines of, they think I'm broken, but they're wrong. And we get a shot, a detail shot of blood underneath her fingernails and blood on her neck. I'm interested to see what they do here. Why do they think she's broken? Is this a sort of thing where she was perhaps sent off to like Arkham and now she's returned? I don't know. I'm sort of curious to see what they're going to do here. I think it's absolutely going to be amazing. You know, either way, I'm sure the story is going to be incredibly fun, and I'm so excited to see her. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even though this takes place as a pretty much a direct sequel to the Batman movie, it takes place in this universe, I don't think I want the Batman to really show up at all, frankly. I think the most that he should really appear in this is as an ancillary, throwaway line, right? Like maybe, Jiminy Christmas, Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot, that's the name I was looking for. Maybe Oz is trying to consolidate his empire, as it were. He's trying to bring together the families and bring not the families, but he's trying to bring the Falcone crime family underneath his thumb. And maybe there's a line where, one of the guys says, oh, we lost a shipment and we lost a couple guys because, or something along those lines. I think it should just be throwaway. I don't want the Batman to really play a role in this at all. And frankly, I don't even think I want to see him, right? Like a brief cameo, a brief throwaway line. I don't want to even see like the outline of him or see him in the background, right? And I'm probably alone in this, right? And don't get me wrong, I love Robert Pattinson's Batman. I thought it was such an interesting take on the character, on Bruce Wayne. I thought it was really, really cool. If you haven't seen that movie, I don't even know what you're doing here. It's so amazing. It's probably one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I absolutely love that it leans into the more detective aspect of the Batman, but he's not the world's greatest detective yet, right? It's still early on in his career. He's still learning and developing his skills and stuff. And so I think it's a really interesting portrayal. But despite that, I don't think he should be here because, like I said, I think this series should really focus on Oswald Cobblepot's Penguin. I think this should focus on the internal civil war here between Sofia Falcone and Cobblepot. I think it should be really small in scope. Now, that's just a personal thing. I think ultimately it's going to make for a better story in the long run, right? I think if you get this series where the main focus is on this character, I think it's going to mean that in further sequels or in further projects wherein Colin Farrell returns, it means we're going to have a much better understanding of the character. And there's going to be a sort of a feeling there of, I guess I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I think it's going to hit harder if we get this series where all we talk about is the Penguin, right? I think that would be really, really cool. But I mean, look, if Pattinson's Batman makes a cameo appearance, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? You know, this isn't the kind of thing where I'm going to be like, oh, this series is ruined. It's a very, very minimal thing. It's not important at all. It's just a personal preference. I really, really think in this universe, in this Elseworlds Batverse, I think we need to hammer the fact that Batman is not everywhere. Right? This is one man in a massive city of millions, right? He can't address all the issues of all the crime. He just physically can't do it. He just can't. And that's an aspect of the Batman that I think doesn't necessarily really get addressed. You know, we all sort of, there's sort of the implication that like Batman is always everywhere. He's always there to clean up the crime and always there to intercede. And I don't want the universe to feel like that because it feels disingenuous to what we've set up in the Batman. I don't know. Again, I think that's just a personal preference. I may or may not be alone in that, but I think that would just make for a much more interesting story. And then furthermore, if you take the Batman out of it, you can continue to build the city of Gotham as a character, right? You can build this, you can act like the city itself is alive, which is something that they really built in the Batman, right? They made Gotham City feel like a world in and of its own. The city itself has its own mindset that is reflected in every interaction therein. And I think that's something that we should really, really hammer down on in this, right? Gotham City is not Batman. Gotham City isn't Batman. Gotham City is there by itself. Batman exists. Batman is in Gotham City. Batman is a massive part. But at this stage, like I said, we're still really, really early in the Batman's career. We're still really early in Bruce Wayne's returning. I think this is, it's described as year 2, right? So he's not been doing this very long. In fact, the city itself has only really recently started having a positive viewpoint of Batman after the events that take place at the, I guess, just the event center. I don't know. I don't think it has a specific name, at least not one that's like important in comics. But the event center, after Riddler blows the bombs and the city gets flooded, only then does Batman begin to become the hero. Does Batman become the beacon of hope rather than the beacon of fear? And so I think we need to sort of further hit home on that in this, that Batman isn't somebody who everybody thinks is a benefit for society yet. Yeah, like people are starting to come around, but it's still really, really early on. I think that would be really interesting. Like I said, I really want to build up the city of Gotham. I want to continue the work that Matt Reeves has started in the Batman. I don't want this universe to only be about Batman. But why don't we return to the Deadline article here? The Penguin was developed by showrunner Lauren LaFranc. I'm probably LaFranc. Could be LaFranc, but probably LaFranc. Series also stars Cristin Milioti as Sofia Falcone, Rhenzy Feliz as Victor Aguilar, Michael Kelly as Johnny Vitti. I believe that's the character that is in House of Cards, Doug Stamper. He had a great role in that. Wow. Shohreh I'm so sorry, but she plays Nadia Maroni. Deirdre O'Connell plays Frances Cobb. Clancy Brown is Sal Maroni. I was right. I thought it was Clancy Brown, but for some reason I had somebody else's name in my head for a minute there, and I second-guessed myself. James Madio as Milos Grappa. Scott Cohen as Luca Falcone. Michael Zegen as Alberto Falcone. Carmen Ejogo as Eve Carlo. And Theo Rossi as Dr. Julian Rush. This is interesting to me. Eve Carlo. I'm going to have to do a quick Google search here. Is this a character in the comics? Because Carlo is the last name of the Clayface in the comics, Basil Carlo, or at least one of the Clayfaces. Let's see. So this is just a Reddit post. So this is not what am I trying to say? a reputable source, so don't take this as gospel. But there's a comment here. The Clayface leaks about the character being in the Batman Part 2 have been around for ages, and as far as I can tell, they're credible. That's right. That has been around for a little over a year, I want to say. I think that those were not leaked last summer. They come from a guy who went to DC to pitch a Clayface movie, only to be told Clayface was already going to be in the next Batman movie. I really wonder how and why Reeves picked Clayface, but I imagine we'll learn here. I somehow don't think Eve will be Clayface. Sorry, Mr. Insider Source. Solely because Basil is an androgynous enough name that there's not much reason to change it. Is it? I mean, I've never heard of a woman named Basil, but I guess. Especially since the Batman didn't change any names. So what's her relation? Mother seems unlikely unless she's a very old woman, since Clayface will be in the next movie, presumably as an adult. I'm betting wife, and that Penguin kills her at some point. Then the Batman Part 2 will be about Clayface trying to kill Penguin and get revenge. That's a really cool idea. I like what we're doing here. That would be really fun. So that's another thing. That, like I said, those rumors have been around for around a year now, I want to say, give or take. And I'm pretty for it. I was talking with Shade the other day, and he was a little bit more skeptical about Clayface. He thought it was a weird choice. And at first, I sort of agreed with him. But definitely over the course of the last year, I've really, really come around to it. I think it could be incredibly interesting to see. I would love to know what Matt Reeves is going to do with Clayface, right? Like, Clayface is a character who is very much leans into the more fantastical aspects of the Batman. Let's see. I gotta pull up an image of him here. What's a good one? Let's see. Well, I mean, you get the gist of it. Here we go. That's a pretty good image. He's made of clay, right? This is a pretty out there villain, and so it may not necessarily fit into the Batman universe, but I want to see how he would do this, right? I don't think the decision of who Matt Reeves would pick to be the villain of the next Batman movie, I can't imagine that is taken lightly, right? He wouldn't have just picked Clayface because why not? He would have picked Clayface because he has a vision of how to bring him into the universe in a way that feels natural and sort of meshes with the existing tone and theme that we've built up here. So I'm really curious to see how he does that. I really like the idea that Redditor put forward, that Penguin is going to kill Eve Carlo, who's potentially the wife of Basil Carlo, and then the Batman 2 is going to follow Batman trying to stop the newly Clayfaced Basil Carlo or whatever. I think that's really, really cool. I don't know. It wouldn't have been my first pick for a villain, but I put my faith in Matt Reeves here. As a director, I really, really enjoy him. Obviously, we've talked so much about his work on the Batman just in the past, but especially in this episode. But that's not the only thing that I am a fan of him. Or that's not the only reason for which I'm a fan. He also was the writer and director for both Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes. You guys know that I absolutely love that series. These are producer credits. You know how much I love that and how amazing I think those are. Director of the original Cloverfield, in my opinion, one of the best found footage movies ever made. Granted, there's not that many, but definitely up there. I would say probably the Mount Rushmore of found footage is like Cloverfield, obviously Blair Witch. I think Blair Witch might have been the first one. The first found footage ever made. I could be wrong. Shade and I just watched Lake Mungo the other day, and that was really, really good as well. But anyways, Cloverfield is up there. I think it's absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's certainly worth the watch. I haven't seen all of the sequels. I think I've seen 10 Cloverfield Lane, but not The Paradox. Let's see. Why was I going to look at this? I feel like there was somebody involved in this who is related to something that is coming out really soon, but I'm not 100% sure. It's not important. I think this is the same guy who did the music for the God of War game, which is a weird aside, but I think that's what? Oh, yeah, there it was. Yeah, God of War, Ragnarok. Yeah, both of them. Yeah, man. And the music in those is absolutely amazing. But I did want to go back here real quick and try and remember what I was going to say about Cloverfield. Oh, that's right. I wanted to look at the writer, Drew Goddard. I think this is the mind behind the Netflix Daredevil show. There we go. He's also attached to... Oh, perhaps not. I thought he was involved. No, he was previously involved with, I believe, an upcoming... Oh, here we go. The Sinister Six. There we go. That's what it was. But that's not necessarily important. So I'm really excited to see what Matt Reeves does. I've got a lot of faith in him for Basil Karlo, for Clayface, if he ultimately does decide to go that way. Again, it's still a rumor. There has been no release. In fact, the Batman Part 2 script is still being written, right? James Gunn recently took to Threads to respond to a comment left by somebody to say that the Batman 2 script is still being worked on by Matt Reeves, and they don't even have an expected finish date, right? Somebody asked, when do you think it'll be done? And he said, when Matt is finished with it, or when Matt thinks it's ready, or something along those lines. So I'm glad that they're giving him time to really work and hone and make something amazing. I'm definitely glad about that. As much as I want to see the Batman Part 2, I'm definitely okay with waiting, because I think ultimately it just means that we're going to get a much better storyline. Now, also in this cast list, we mentioned Clancy Brown, who's going to be playing Salvatore Maroni. I'm really interested to see him. I think that's going to be fun. Obviously, Clancy Brown is just an amazing, amazing actor. He's just got such an iconic voice, and he plays that. His voice just it oozes with like menace and malice. It's very well suited to this role, and I'm interested to see how the relationship between Maroni and Cobblepot is going to go here, right? Because in the first Batman, we learned that Salvatore Maroni was put in prison because of a drug bust, which was only able to be completed or investigated or continued or finished, whatever, I guess, because of the testimony of Carmine Falcone, right? Carmine was El Rata Alada, the rat with wings, and he was the one who sold out Maroni, became a Fed, and locked him up behind bars. So presumably there's going to be some friction here between Sal Maroni and Oswald Cobblepot, right? I'm sure they're not going to be homies. Cobblepot was still a Falcone for a very, very long time. But I'm interested to see, are they going to work together and form some pseudo-alliance to work against Cristin Miliotti's Sofia Falcone? I'm not 100% sure. Do we think perhaps Oswald is going to make a deal with Sal Maroni to sort of merge their two families, or to cease the infighting and bring an end to conflict that ends lives or whatever? Obviously not throughout altruism, but through his own self-interest in the fact that he wants to be the head of the Falcone crime family. But I'm really, really curious to see what's going to go on there. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of bad blood between Maroni and Cobblepot and Maroni and Sofia Falcone. Even though Sofia was fairly removed, there's still, that name attachment. And so I'm really, really curious. I hope in this series we get to see quite a bit of him. I hope it's not just, one or two scenes here or there. I hope we don't really just see, conversations in prison. To be honest with you, I kind of hope Sal Maroni gets out. I don't know how. Maybe they game the system and he gets out on appeal, or maybe there's an actual breakout that happens. Maybe there's some chaos that ensues. Maybe that's the deal. Maybe Oswald Cobblepot agrees to break out Sal Maroni in return, or in exchange for his support in this civil war. That could be a really, really interesting storyline. And then presumably, Maroni's going to double-cross Cobblepot, and then we've got further mob stories on down the line. I think that could absolutely be really, really fun. But why don't we finish out this article here? The Penguin was executive produced by Reeves, Dylan Clark, Colin Farrell, LeFranc, who writes and serves as showrunner, Craig Zobel, who directs the first 3 episodes, and Bill Carraro. Series is based on characters created for DC by Bob Kane and Bill Finger and produced by Reeves' 6th and Idaho Productions and Dylan Clark Productions in association with Warner Brothers Television. Reeves and Sixth and Idaho have an overall deal at Warner Brothers TV. Daniel Pipsky, what a last name, also serves as executive producer. Reeves' Batman is part of a DC Elseverse, the DC Elseworlds, which is that was a weird sentence, which runs alongside Peter Safran and James Gunn's Phase 1 of their Gods and Monsters DCU, which kicks off with the July 11, 2025 theatrical release of Superman. Reeves' feature sequel, The Batman 2, hit cinemas on October 2nd of 2026. Safran and Gunn have their own Batman in the works, with Andy Muschietti directing The Brave and the Bold, which follows Bruce Wayne and a Spitfire renegade son he didn't know he had, Damian Wayne, who takes on the alias of Robin. I'm really excited for that. I think that's really going to be fun as well. Not mentioned in this article, but Matt Reeves is also developing and creating a TV series to be put into the DC universe. And that series revolves around Arkham Asylum. So I'm really, really curious what they're going to do with that. How is that going to fit into the DCU? How is that going to impact other stories? How is that going to relate to The Brave and the Bold? I don't know, but I think it's going to be really, really cool. And again, with Matt Reeves at the helm and behind the camera, I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful. But that's where we're going to end it. Let me know down below, what do you guys think of this? Do you think the trailer looks as good as I do? Do you have as high of hopes for this series? Or are you just going to skip this, right? Is this not one that you felt like was necessary? Do you think Penguin had a decent enough story in the Batman and that's sort of it? Do you think it needs to be expanded? I don't know. Let me know down below. I think this is going to be really, really fun. I think this is going to be absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait. As we get more information, as we get closer to the release date, we will keep you apprised of We'll keep you apprised as more information becomes available, but for now, we're just going to have to wait until September when the series releases, and I will be back here tomorrow with another news segment, and I will see you guys then.